The sacred law of the galaxy had known peace for over 10,000 years under the protection of the oldest law. This ancient rule, carved into the very foundation of galactic civilization, stated that no species could harm another's children. It was simple, universal, an absolute. The Galactic Council met on the massive space station called Unity, where representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered under floating crystalline domes. The air hummed with translation devices as beings of all shapes and sizes conducted their business. Three-eyed Altons floated in their energy pods, while the insect-like Cricks clicked their mandibles in rhythm with their speech. At the center of it all sat the High Judge, an ancient being whose species had long since evolved beyond physical form. Its voice resonated through every mind present as it spoke, the ritual words that began each session. "We gather under the protection of the oldest law. Let no harm come to the innocent. Let no hand be raised against the young." The humans had joined this grand alliance only 50 years ago. They were still considered newcomers. Their single representative, a quiet woman named Dr. Lisa Kane, who rarely spoke during the grand debates. Most species found humans unremarkable, not the strongest, not the smartest, not the most advanced. They seemed to excel at nothing except asking questions and taking detailed notes. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, human families had built a small but thriving colony. The planet was rich in rare minerals that powered faster than light travel, and humans had proven surprisingly good at extracting them safely. Their children played in the colony's central dome, their laughter echoing through the artificial atmosphere while their parents worked the deep mines. The Brock Empire had been watching. These reptilian beings ruled 12 star systems through fear and military might. Their ships were massive, their weapons devastating, and their hunger for resources endless. They had been searching for a way to claim Kepler 442b for decades, but the human colony's legal mining rights protected them. General Thack, commander of the Brock War Fleet, studied the holographic displays in his command ship. His yellow eyes glowed with cold calculation as he reviewed the human settlement's defenses. They were pathetic. A few security drones, some basic shields, and no military presence worth mentioning. "The humans have no real claim to this world," he hissed to his officers. "They are weak, new to our galaxy. Who would stand for them if they simply disappeared?" His second in command, Colonel Vex, shifted nervously. "General, the oldest law protects all civilian populations. The Council would investigate, find no evidence, and move on," Thack interrupted. "Humans are nothing special. They have no powerful allies, no ancient trees. They are alone." The plan was simple and brutal. The Brock would attack during the colony's night cycle, when the children were asleep in their homes. They would claim it was an accident, a mining explosion, perhaps, or a reactor failure. The evidence would be destroyed, the survivors few and scattered. But the Brock had made one crucial mistake. They had dismissed humans as weak and forgettable, but they had never studied human history. They had never learned about the wars humans had fought among themselves, the lengths they would go to protect their young, or the terrible patience they showed when seeking justice. Dr. Kane sat in her office aboard Unity Station, reviewing the latest reports from human colonies. The communication from Kepler 442b had been routine mining quotas, supply requests, a brief message from the colony administrator about his daughter's birthday party. Nothing unusual. The attack came at 0347 local time. The Brock ships emerged from hyperspace like metal sharks, their weapons already charging. The colony's shields lasted exactly 37 seconds. The evacuation alarms managed to sound for 2 minutes before the main power grid failed. When the Brock ships departed 3 hours later, the human colony was gone. The dome was cracked open like an egg, its atmosphere bleeding into space. The mining equipment was destroyed, the residential areas reduced to burning rubble. Of the 847 humans who had called Kepler 442b home, only 23 survived, mostly adults who had been working in the deepest mine shafts when the attack began. Among the dead were 312 children. The news reached Dr. Kane 6 hours later. She read the report 3 times, her hands steady, her face showing no emotion. Then she stood, gathered her files, and walked to the emergency communication booth. Her message was brief, sent on an encrypted channel to Earth. The oldest law has been broken. Recommend immediate activation of Protocol 7. The response came back within minutes. Acknowledged. Humanity's full response is authorized. God help them all. Dr. Kane returned to her office and began making calls. The Brock Empire had just made the worst mistake in their species' history. They had killed human children, and now they were going to learn why that was never ever done. The hunt was about to begin. The Galactic Council's emergency session convened within 12 hours of the Kepler 442b massacre. The great assembly hall buzzed with shocked voices as representatives from across the galaxy tried to process what had happened. The oldest law hadn't been broken in over 3 millennia. High Judge Omega's ethereal form flickered with distress. The evidence is clear, it announced, its mental voice heavy with sorrow. The Brock Empire has committed the ultimate crime. They have murdered children under the protection of the oldest law. General Thack stood at the Brock Empire's podium, his scaled hide gleaming under the chamber's lights. He showed no remorse, only cold defiance. We deny these accusations. Our fleet was nowhere near the human colony. Perhaps their primitive technology simply failed. Dr. Kane rose from the human section, her voice calm but carrying clearly through the vast chamber. We have debris analysis showing Brock weapon signatures. We have survivor testimony. We have recordings from our deep space monitoring stations showing your ships entering and leaving the system. The Alton representative floated forward, its 3 eyes blinking in sequence. The evidence seems conclusive. The Brock must face justice. Under galactic law? Justice? Thack laughed, a sound like grinding metal. From who? The Council's peacekeepers? They have no real power. And what will the humans do? They are weak, few in number, with no military might worth mentioning. Dr. Kane met his gaze steadily. We will do what we must. The session continued for hours, but the outcome was predetermined. The Brock Empire was formally accused of violating the oldest law, but the Council's response was limited to economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation. The Brock controlled too much territory, commanded too many ships, and had too many allies to face any real consequences. As the assembly dispersed, alien representatives offered their condolences to Dr. King, but she could see the calculation in their eyes. The humans had been wronged, but they were still newcomers, still weak. The galaxy would remember this injustice for a while, then move on to other matters. They had no idea what they were about to witness. On Earth, the Human Defense Council met in an underground bunker beneath Geneva. The room was sparse, functional, filled with military officers and government officials, whose faces showed the strain of the past 72 hours. Admiral Jack Stone, commander of Earth's Space Forces, stood before a holographic display showing the Brock Empire's 12-star systems. The Brock have 847 warships, 23 fortress worlds, and approximately 12 billion citizens. They consider themselves the galaxy's apex predators. Defense Minister Anna Cross leaned forward. What do we have, officially? 73 ships mostly. Escorts and transports. No dreadnoughts, no planet killers. By galactic standards, we're defenseless. And unofficially? Stone's expression turned grim. We've been preparing for this day since we first learned about the oldest law. We hoped we'd never need Protocol 7. But ... He gestured, and the hologram changed, showing hidden shipyards throughout the solar system. Massive vessels hung in the darkness between asteroids, their construction concealed for decades. These weren't the small, efficient ships humanity had shown the galaxy. These were warships built with one purpose: to bring absolute destruction to any species that threatened human children. The Brock think they know us, Stone continued. They've seen our merchant vessels, our colony ships, our exploration craft. They think we're peaceful because we choose to be peaceful. They're about to learn the difference. On the frontier world of New Colorado, Captain Mike Torres received his orders while sitting in his family's kitchen. His daughter Amy, 8 years old, was doing homework at the table. His wife Maria was making coffee, humming softly to herself. The message was simple: Protocol 7 is active. Report to Shipyard Delta 7 immediately. Full deployment authorized. Torres closed his eyes, thinking of the children on Kepler 442b. Amy looked up from her math problems. "Daddy, are you okay?" He forced a smile. "Just work stuff, sweetheart. Daddy has to go on a business trip. Will you be gone long?" Torres stood and hugged his daughter tight. "I'll be back when the job is done. And Amy, remember what I've always told you about bullies. You have to stand up to them, or they'll never stop. That's right. And sometimes standing up means showing them exactly what happens when they pick on someone smaller." Across human space, the same scene played out thousands of times. Reservists kissed their families goodbye, telling them they were going on routine exercises. Shipyard workers activated construction bays that had been sealed for decades. Weapons that had never been tested were loaded onto vessels that officially didn't exist. The Brock Empire had killed 312 human children. They had broken the oldest law and laughed about it. They had called humanity weak and dismissed them as irrelevant. They were about to discover that humans had learned a terrible lesson from their own bloody history. Sometimes, the only way to ensure peace is to make war so terrible that no one dares to start it again. The galaxy was about to witness humanity's true nature. 3 weeks after the Kepler 442b massacre, the Brock Empire continued its business as usual. General Thak had been promoted to Supreme Commander for his successful resource acquisition, and Brock forces were already moving to claim the mineral-rich world. The galactic community's sanctions were having little effect. The Brock had plenty of allies who were willing to trade quietly. On the fortress world of Brock Prime, Supreme Commander Thak stood before a massive tactical display showing his empire's expansion plans. The holographic map showed 12 star systems painted in Brock green, with dozens of potential targets marked in red. "The humans have made no military response," reported Colonel Vex, his voice carrying a note of surprise. "Our intelligence suggests they've actually reduced their patrol schedules. Some of their ships have gone completely dark." Thak's yellow eyes gleamed with satisfaction. As expected, they are a broken people, too weak to seek proper revenge. Their children died because they were too pathetic to protect them. What neither of them knew was that every Brock communication was being monitored. Humanity's listening posts, disguised as simple research stations, had been intercepting Brock transmissions for years. Every ship movement, every tactical discussion, every casual conversation was being recorded and analyzed. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Shipyard Delta 7 had been humanity's most classified secret for 30 years. Built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, it was invisible to casual observation and protected by every stealth technology humanity had developed. Inside its vast construction bays, the impossible was taking shape. Admiral Stone walked through the central gallery, watching as thousands of workers put finishing touches on vessels that defied every assumption the galaxy had made about human Technology. These weren't the simple, practical ships that humanity had shown the Galactic Council. These were nightmares made real. The flagship was a monster, 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that incorporated technology reverse-engineered from a dozen different alien species. Humanity had been very good students, quietly learning from every piece of technology they'd encountered. The other species had thought they were sharing knowledge with grateful newcomers. They had actually been arming their own executioners. Status report, Stone said to Chief Engineer Bob Martinez. All systems green, Admiral. The Retribution is ready for deployment. The rest of the fleet is standing by. Stone nodded, looking at the tactical display. 47 ships hung in the darkness, each one designed for a specific purpose. Hunter-killers that could track prey across light years. Siege vessels that could crack fortress worlds. Electronic warfare ships that could turn an enemy's own systems against them. And the special packages? Martinez grinned grimly. Loaded and ready. The Brock won't know what hit them. On Unity Station, Dr. Kane maintained her routine, attending council sessions and filing the appropriate diplomatic protests. To outside observers, she seemed resigned to her people's fate. Inside, she was counting down the hours until humanity's response began. The first sign came at the edge of Brock space. A patrol ship, the Crusher, was conducting routine sweeps of the outer system when its sensors detected something impossible. The readings showed a ship, a big one, but visual confirmation showed empty space. Check the sensors again, ordered Captain Grok, the ship's commander. Sir, the sensors are working perfectly. There's definitely something there. It's just ... invisible. Before Grok could respond, the Crusher's systems went haywire. Communications died, weapons powered down, and navigation failed. The ship hung helpless in space as something they couldn't see moved closer. Then the lights went out. When the Brock fleet arrived to investigate 6 hours later, they found the Crusher intact, but empty. The crew was gone. The ship's computer wiped. Clean. The only message left behind was burned into the hull in perfect Brock script. You killed our children. Now you will pay. The same pattern repeated across Brock space over the following days. Ships vanished without sending distress signals. Outposts went dark. Supply convoys disappeared between star systems. The Brock military was facing an enemy. They couldn't see, couldn't track, and couldn't fight. Supreme Commander Thek stood in his command center, watching reports pour in from across the Empire. In 1 week, the Brock had lost over 30 vessels and 2 minor outposts. Their crews had simply vanished, leaving behind only threatening messages. Who is doing this? He demanded. Colonel Vex checked the latest intelligence reports. Unknown, sir. No ships have been detected on our sensors. No energy signatures, no hyperspace distortions. It's like they're fighting ghosts. Ghosts don't destroy warships, Thek snarled. Find them. But the Brock couldn't find what they couldn't see. Humanity's stealth technology was beyond anything the galaxy had imagined. While other species had focused on bigger guns and stronger shields, humans had perfected the art of invisibility. Their ships moved like shadows, striking without warning and vanishing before any response could be mounted. The Phantom Fleet was just the beginning. The Brock had killed human children, and now they were going to learn what true fear felt like. Brock Empire was in chaos. In just 2 weeks, they had lost 67 ships and 8 outposts to an enemy that seemed to exist only in shadows. Panic was spreading through their ranks as soldiers began to whisper about ghost ships and invisible demons. Supreme Commander Thek had ordered all remaining forces to fall back to the inner systems, abandoning the outer territories in a desperate attempt to consolidate his defenses. The mighty Brock fleet, which had terrorized dozens of species for centuries, was now huddled around their homeworlds like frightened children. On the bridge of the Retribution, Admiral Stone watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The Phantom fleet had done its job perfectly. The Brock were confused, scared, and making mistakes. Now it was time for the real war to begin. "Admiral," reported Commander Lisa Park, the ship's tactical officer, "all ships are in position. The Brock have concentrated their remaining forces around their 3 core worlds." Stone nodded. The Brock thought they were being clever, using their fortress worlds as shields. They had no idea that humanity had spent years studying their defenses, finding weaknesses, planning for this exact scenario. "Signal the fleet," Stone commanded. "Begin Phase 2. The first thing the Brock saw was impossible. Their long-range sensors detected a massive energy spike, and then ships began materializing out of empty space. Not just a few ships, an entire fleet, larger and more advanced than anything they had imagined humans could build. The Retribution led the charge, its massive hull gleaming with weapons that seemed to bend light around them. Behind it came vessels of every size and configuration, each one designed for maximum destruction. The Phantom fleet had been revealed, and it was terrifying. On Brock Prime, Supreme Commander Thack stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Where did they come from? How many ships do the humans have? "Unknown, sir," Colonel Vex replied, his voice shaking. "Our intelligence suggested they had less than 100 vessels total. This fleet alone has over 200 ships." Thack's claws extended in rage. "Impossible. The humans are weak. They're newcomers. They don't have the industry or technology for this." But the evidence was right in front of him. The human fleet was not only real, it was advancing with precision and purpose that spoke of years of planning. Every movement was coordinated, every ship in perfect formation. This was not the desperate attack of a weak species. This was the calculated assault of apex predators. The first engagement came at the outer defense platform of Brock Prime. The station's massive guns opened fire, sending streams of plasma toward the approaching human fleet. The humans didn't even try to avoid the barrage. They simply absorbed it. "Sir," reported a panicked Brock gunner, "our weapons are having no effect. Their shields are absorbing everything." The human response was swift and terrible. The Retribution's main gun spoke once, sending a beam of pure energy that cut through the defense platform like it was made of paper. The massive station, which had defended Brock Prime for over 1,000 years, was reduced to glowing debris in seconds. Similar scenes played out across the Brock Empire's inner systems. Fortress worlds that had never been threatened suddenly found themselves under attack by vessels that seemed to ignore the laws of physics. Human ships moved faster than they should, hit harder than their size suggested, and shrugged off weapons that should have destroyed them. The truth was becoming clear to the surviving Brock commanders. Humanity had been lying about their capabilities for 50 years. While presenting themselves as peaceful traders and miners, they had been secretly building a war machine designed specifically to destroy any species that threatened their young. On the surface of Brock Prime, civilians watched in terror as the human fleet filled the sky. Their mighty military, which had conquered 12 star systems, was being systematically dismantled by a species they had dismissed as weak and irrelevant. Supreme Commander Thack tried to rally his forces, but his communications kept being jammed by human electronic warfare ships. His reinforcements were being destroyed before they could even reach the battle zones. His fortress worlds were cracking under the assault of weapons that seemed to violate every known law of physics. In desperation, he opened a channel to the human fleet. "I demand to speak with your commanding officer." Admiral Stone's image appeared on the main screen, his face showing no emotion. "I am Admiral Stone, commander of the Human Defense Force. You have violated the oldest law by murdering our children. You have been judged and found guilty. "You cannot do this." Thax snarled. "The Galactic Council will never allow it." The Galactic Council had their chance to deliver justice. They chose politics over the lives of innocent children. "We choose a different path." The screen went dark, and the bombardment resumed. The Brock Empire, which had thought itself untouchable, was learning that there are some lines that should never be crossed. They had killed human children, and now humanity was showing them the price of that mistake. The reckoning had begun. Asterisk. The war lasted exactly 37 days. When it ended, the Brock Empire no longer existed. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the last Brock Fortress world surrender. The mighty military that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries was now reduced to scattered survivors begging for mercy. Their fleets were debris, their fortress worlds were burning, and their leaders were either dead or in custody. "Admiral," reported Commander Park, "we're receiving surrender signals from the remaining Brock installations. They're offering unconditional surrender." Stone nodded grimly. "Accepted. Begin evacuation procedures for civilian populations. Military personnel are to be processed as war criminals." The speed and totality of humanity's victory had shocked the galaxy. The Brock Empire, which had seemed invincible, had been completely destroyed by a species that most considered technologically inferior. The Phantom Fleet had revealed itself to be just the tip of the iceberg. Humanity's true military might was beyond anything the galaxy had imagined. On Unity Station, the emergency session of the Galactic Council was in chaos. Representatives from hundreds of worlds were demanding answers, their voices creating a cacophony of fear and confusion. "How is this possible?" demanded the Alton representative, its three eyes blinking rapidly. "Our intelligence suggested the humans had fewer than 100 ships." Dr. Kane stood at the human podium, her expression calm despite the turmoil around her. "We had exactly what we needed to protect our people. Nothing more, nothing less." The Crick's delegate clicked its mandibles aggressively. "You lied to us. You deceived the Council about your military capabilities." "We never lied," Kane replied evenly. "We simply chose not to discuss our defensive preparations. The oldest law requires that we protect our children. We prepared accordingly." "High Judge." Omega's ethereal form flickered with distress. "The scale of destruction... Entire star systems have been sterilized. This goes beyond justice into the realm of vengeance." Kane's eyes hardened. 312 children died on Kepler 442b. The Brock Empire killed them deliberately, then laughed about it. They called us weak, dismissed us as irrelevant, and promised to do it again. We ensured they cannot keep that promise. The truth was slowly emerging from the wreckage of the Brock Empire. Humanity had been preparing for this possibility since the day they learned about the oldest law. While other species had focused on expansion and trade, humans had quietly built the most advanced military force in galactic history. Their ships incorporated technology from dozens of species, improved and weaponized beyond recognition. Their stealth systems were based on research into quantum mechanics that other species had dismissed as theoretical. Their weapons drew power from controlled black holes, a technology so dangerous that most civilizations had banned its research. Supreme Commander Thak sat in a human prison ship, his once proud bearing broken. The monster who had ordered the death of 312 children was now facing trial for crimes against galactic law. His empire was gone, his people scattered, his legacy nothing but ash and regret. "You destroyed everything," he whispered to his human guards. "Billions of innocent Brock died because of what I did." The guard, a young woman whose own daughter had died on Kepler 442b, looked at him with cold eyes. "You made the choice when you killed our children. We simply delivered the consequences." As news of the Brock Empire's destruction spread across The galaxy, a new understanding began to emerge. Humanity was not the weak, peaceful species they had pretended to be. They were something far more dangerous, a species that appeared harmless until you threatened what they loved most. The Galactic Council passed new resolutions, updating their understanding of human military capabilities and establishing new protocols for dealing with species that violated the oldest law. The message was clear: harm the innocent, and humanity would ensure you faced absolute justice. On Earth, Admiral Stone stood before the Human Defense Council, delivering his final report. The Brock Empire has been eliminated as a threat. All surviving military personnel are in custody. Civilian populations have been relocated to refugee worlds under Council protection. And the galaxy's reaction? Asked Defense Minister Cross. Fear, mostly. Some species are calling for restrictions on our military capabilities. Others are quietly requesting defense treaties. Word is spreading that humanity takes the oldest law very seriously. Stone looked out at the assembled officials. We've shown the galaxy what happens when someone breaks the oldest law. The question now is whether anyone else will be foolish enough to test us. As the meeting concluded, a new message was being broadcast across galactic communication networks. It was simple, direct, and unmistakable. The oldest law protects all children. Humanity enforces it. Choose wisely. The galaxy had learned its lesson. The species that seemed weakest was actually the most dangerous, and the price of harming human children was absolute destruction. Justice had been delivered. The message was clear. The galaxy would remember. Asterisk.